Ifeoma had it all: a thriving career, a beautiful apartment, and a tight-knit group of friends. As a marketing executive at a top firm in Abuja, she had worked tirelessly to build a reputation as one of the best in her field. However, despite her many accomplishments, Ifeoma couldn't shake off the feeling of anxiety that gripped her every Christmas. It wasn't the lights, the decorations, or the carols that made her nervous. It was the thought of going home to her parents' house in Enugu without a man by her side for Christmas. Ifeoma's parents, though loving and supportive, had always made their expectations clear. They wanted Ifeoma to settle down with a good man just like her siblings had done. Every Christmas, Ifeoma's parents would ask her when she would bring home a husband, and every year, Ifeoma would leave their house feeling like a disappointment. This year was no different. As Christmas approached, Ifeoma could feel the pressure mounting up on her. Her stomach churned one afternoon as she watched her colleagues in the office discuss about how they would spend their Christmas holiday during one of their lunch break. As they continued to converse, Ifeoma was lost in her own thoughts and didn't contribute to the conversation. "Ifeoma, what about you? How are you going to spend your holidays?" Anita, one of Ifeoma's colleagues, asked with a smile. Ifeoma, who was lost in thought, quickly regained her composure. "What did you say?" she asked. "I said, how are you going to spend your Christmas holiday?" Anita repeated. "Oh, nothing really special. Same old, Ifeoma replied, smiling. But as Christmas approached, Ifeoma's excitement began to dwindle. She dreaded the inevitable question from her parents. Ifeoma found herself secretly wishing for a miracle, a man to call her own, someone to present to her parents. But as days turned into weeks, Ifeoma's hope began to dwindle. She longed for love, but it seemed elusive. She attended parties, went on dates, and tried online dating, but nothing seemed to work out. It was as if the universe had conspired against her to keep her single. After several days of swiping through profiles on an online dating app, Ifeoma finally settled for Jerry, and they agreed to go on a blind date. They had planned to meet at one of the big restaurants in Abuja, and Ifeoma spent hours getting ready, hoping to make a good first impression. As soon as Jerry arrived, she knew something was off about him. He was wearing a bright orange shirt with a matching tie, and his hair was slicked back with what looked like an entire bottle of gel. But Ifeoma was determined to give Jerry a chance. She smiled brightly and greeted him warmly, hoping to make the best of the evening. As they sat down to eat, Jerry launched into a non-stop monologue about his job, his hobbies, and his favorite food. Ifeoma tried to contribute to the conversation, but Jerry wouldn't let her speak. "Please, don't interrupt me, I'm still speaking," Jerry said, waving Ifeoma off. Ifeoma was shocked at his audacity, but managed to smile. As the night wore on, Ifeoma grew more and more frustrated. She had never been on a date where she hadn't been allowed to speak, and she was starting to feel like she was being held hostage. Finally, after what felt like eternity, the date came to an end. As they walked out of the restaurant, Jerry kept talking, barely pausing for breath. Ifeoma felt relieved when she left his presence. She knew she was never going to contact Jerry ever again. Ifeoma jokingly told her friends one evening while they were having a conversation that she wanted a man for Christmas. She decided to try the online dating app one more time. After swiping through profiles, she matched with a man named Michael. He seemed nice and charming, and they had a great conversation and decided to meet up in person. But when Michael arrived, Ifeoma was shocked. He was much more older than his profile picture and looked nothing like the man she had been chatting with. His conversations were shallow. Ifeoma tried to make the best out of the situation, but Michael became overbearing as he tried to kiss her severally. Ifeoma felt harassed and uncomfortable, so she picked up her purse and walked out on him. Ifeoma deleted the dating app from her phone as she couldn't bear the thought of going for another horrible date. Ifeoma's friend Anita hooked Ifeoma up with one of her acquaintances named Femi, who lived in the same estate with her. Ifeoma felt a sense of relief when she finally met Femi. Finally, this is my last bus stop, Ifeoma thought to herself. Femi was handsome, charming, and well dressed. Femi complimented Ifeoma's beauty with a smile, and Ifeoma returned his compliments too. But things went south when Femi started bringing up his ex-girlfriend into every conversation they engaged in. Ifeoma's heart sank at the discovery. She tried to change the topic one more time to see if things would get better. So, what do you like to do for fun? Ifeoma asked, looking at Femi. Oh, that Isabella used to love going to the beach. We went there all the time. At that point, Ifeoma knew that Femi was irredeemable and that he was still obsessed with his ex-girlfriend. And this made Ifeoma very sad because she had really liked him. Why are you not eating? Femi asked Ifeoma with concern. Do you know that Isabella does this all the time? Ifeoma couldn't take it anymore. She picked her purse, stood up, then turned to Femi. Why are you here? You should be with Isabella. You are still in love with her. Ifeoma walked away without waiting to see the expression or reaction on Femi's face. Few days to Christmas, Ifeoma reluctantly packed her bags and headed to Enugu. As she arrived in Enugu, she was greeted with the familiar sights and sounds of the season. The twinkling lights, the aroma of food cooking, and the sound of laughter from her niece and nephew enveloped her. Ifeoma was happy to see them as Christmas music filled the air. But despite the festive atmosphere, Ifeoma couldn't shake off the feelings of dread that had been building up inside her. She knew that the inevitable question would come, and she wasn't sure of how she was going to respond. The first evening was filled with warmth and catching up, but Ifeoma's anxiety lingered. Are you okay? Ifeoma's mom, who had noticed her quiet nature, asked. She waved it off with a smile and told her mother that she was fine. When they were having dinner the next day, Ifeoma's parents didn't disappoint her as they asked her the familiar question. When are you going to introduce your husband-to-be to us? Her parents questioned. Ifeoma tried to downplay their question, but her parents were relentless as they continued to probe her with genuine concern. Later that evening, Auntie Ogechi, Ifeoma's auntie, came to visit the family. She was so elated to see Ifeoma as they exchanged pleasantries and tried to catch up with old times. Auntie Ogechi suggested that they all attend the village church service the next day. Ifeoma agreed to go with her auntie. The next day, Ifeoma got dressed and went to the local church Auntie Ogechi had invited her to. As she arrived at the church, Ifeoma was struck by the beauty of the decorations and the warmth of the congregation. As the service began, Ifeoma found herself getting lost in the music ministration and the message of the pastor, who preached on a sermon titled God's Perfect Time. Ifeoma listened to the pastor's preaching and felt like a burden had been lifted from her shoulders. She felt a sense of peace wash over her, and for the first time in a long while, she forgot about her parents' expectations, and all her worries and anxiety were swept off. She whispered gently to herself that she would wait on God's perfect time for her life. It was then that she saw him, a tall, handsome man with a kind smile and a piercing brown eyes. He was sitting across the congregation. Their eyes met. Ifeoma felt a spark of electricity run through her body. When the service ended, Auntie Ogechi came over to greet Ifeoma. "Ifeoma, there is someone I would want you to meet," she said as she gently pulled her hand while they strolled. Auntie Ogechi introduced Ifeoma to the man she had shared few stares and glances at during the service. She introduced him as Chidi. They exchanged pleasantries, and Ifeoma learned that Chidi was a doctor who had returned to the village to give back to his community. As they talked, Ifeoma found herself drawn to Chidi's kind and compassionate nature. She was surprised by how easy it was to talk to him, even though they just met, how much they had in common, and how much she enjoyed his company. Chidi asked Ifeoma if he could see her again before she returned to Abuja. Ifeoma agreed, and they exchanged phone numbers. As the days went by, Ifeoma and Chidi spent every spare moment together. They would take long walks around the city, visit the local markets, and sit on the bank of the river watching the sunset. Ifeoma had never felt this way about anyone before. She was drawn to Chidi's kind and compassionate nature, his sense of humor, and his passion for his work. As she had gone to visit him when he was on duty at the hospital one day, she loved the way he made her laugh, the way he listened to her, and the way he made her feel like she was the only person in the world. Their friendship was as though they had known each other for a long time. As for Chidi, he was equally smitten. He had never met anyone like Ifeoma before. Smart, beautiful, and fiercely independent. He loved her confidence, her determination. He was also drawn to her passion for her work and her infectious enthusiasm. As the days went by, Ifeoma and Chidi's relationship blossomed. They would spend hours talking on the phone, sharing their hopes and dreams, their fears and insecurities. They would send each other messages filled with love and affection. They decided to attend the annual Enugu Carnival together. They had heard so much about the yearly carnival before now, but none of them had ever attended it. The streets of Enugu was bustling with activities. The whole place was crowded with people as they made their way through the crowd. They were greeted by the sound of music and laughter. Ifeoma and Chidi walked hand in hand, taking in the sights and sound of the festival. As they walked, they came across a group of cultural dancers performing a traditional Igbo dance. Ifeoma and Chidi watched in awe as the dancers moved in perfect synchrony, their colorful costumes shimmering in the sunlight. After some time, they decided to take a break and sit down to watch the festivities. They found a comfortable spot on the grass and sat down, enjoying the music and the atmosphere. Ifeoma turned to Chidi and said, "I am so glad we came to the festival today. It's been an amazing experience." Chidi smiled and replied, "I know, right? I have never seen so many people having so much fun. This festival really brought the city together." As the sun began to set, they reluctantly left the festival as they discussed what they enjoyed most about the festival on their way home. One afternoon, while they spoke over the phone, Chidi begged Ifeoma that he would love to come visit her, and if she would permit, he would also love to see her parents on Christmas Day. Ifeoma was shocked at his request as tears welled up in her eyes because she wasn't even expecting it. "That would be great," Ifeoma replied with a wave of emotion in her voice. It was Christmas morning and the house was buzzing with activities. The women were in the kitchen preparing the meals for the Christmas celebration amidst chatting and laughter. It was a full house as Ifeoma's elder sisters were around with their husbands. The laughter of Ifeoma's siblings and relatives echoed through the house, making the atmosphere lively and enjoyable. At midday, Chidi arrived the family compound with a warm smile while bearing gifts. The family's eyes were fixed on the young man. Chidi was dressed in a simple but elegant outfit and he carried himself with confidence. Ifeoma's siblings, Ada and Chidima, were immediately drawn to Chidi's friendly nature. They started a conversation with him, asking him about his interests and hobbies. Chidi was happy to oblige as he told them about his passion for medicine and his love for music. Meanwhile, Ifeoma's brother-in-law Ugo was impressed by Chidi's willingness to help out. Chidi assisted with pouring drinks into everyone's glasses and also played games with Ifeoma's niece and nephew. Ifeoma's parents were charmed by Chidi's warmth and kindness. That evening, as Ifeoma was assisting her mother to wash the dishes in the kitchen, Mrs. Onwuka looked at Ifeoma. "You didn't tell us you have found a man," she said, smiling. "Mom, I didn't because we just met," Ifeoma replied, rolling her eyes. "He really looks kind and genuine," Mrs. Onwuka said, commending Chidi. She looked at Ifeoma again. "Ifeoma, I am sorry if you have ever felt too pressured by us to bring a man home or to get married. We really love you and want the best for you." Mrs. Onwuka squeezed her daughter's hand tightly. "I want you to take your time with him and get to know him." Ifeoma smiled at her mom with tears welling up in her eyes. She told her mother that he had really felt pressured and wanted to meet up with their expectations by all means, to the extent of going on several horrible dates with strangers. She looked at her mother and said, "But the day I went to Auntie Oge's church, I saw a different perspective to life and discovered from the scripture that God had a perfect plan for everyone's life and that His timing always comes with peace. So for the first time in years, I dropped every of the pressure I have ever felt to God and didn't care anymore about meeting anyone's expectation. I met Chidi at the point where I wasn't sticking out my neck, searching eagerly for Mr. Right." Mrs. Onwuka hugged Ifeoma as she relived her experience with her. "I'm so sorry, my dear," she said. "It's fine, I'm fine now," Ifeoma replied. Ifeoma and Chidi sat together one evening watching the stars twinkle. They held hands, looking into each other's eyes. Ifeoma knew she had found her soulmate. She realized that she had been given a chance to love. She had been so focused on finding someone to present to her parents that she had almost missed out on the real thing. On New Year's Eve, Chidi took Ifeoma to a rooftop overlooking the Enugu landscape as fireworks lit up the sky. He held her hand and whispered to her ears, "These past few weeks has been the best weeks in my entire life. I never expected to meet someone like you," he said with a smile. While he continued to speak, more fireworks lit up the sky. Chidi pointed to the direction of a firework and Ifeoma looked at the direction of the firework, which had written sentence. She tried to make a meaning out of the displayed sentence from the firework. "Will you marry me, Ifeoma?" she said, and just then the sentence clicked to her. She gasped in surprise and turned to look at Chidi. Chidi was bending on one knee while stretching a ring towards her. Tears of joy streamed down from her eyes. Ifeoma nodded eagerly. "Yes, yes, I will marry you," she exclaimed as Chidi slid the ring into her fingers. They hugged and shared a kiss. Passers-by who had witnessed the proposal cheered and clapped as they congratulated them. The Christmas season had brought Ifeoma and Chidi together, and they knew that their love would last a lifetime. They had found each other in the most unexpected way, and they were grateful to God for the miracle of their love. Thank you for watching this video. Please help this channel grow by subscribing to this channel, and you will get to enjoy more interesting African tales. Also, share with us in the comment section what you love about this story and the valuable lessons you have learned from it. Like and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Until I come your way again, for now, it's bye.